Ryan Garcia is uncoachable. Seriously, he's going to Eddy, Reynoso, and Derrick James, and it doesn't seem like Derrick James is getting to him, and we know Reynoso couldn't get to him. And, like, let's be real. Derrick James has, Charlo. He has Errol Spence, two great boxers. Eddy Reynoso has Oscar Valdez, Canelo. You got Andy Ruiz over there. He's a good coach. Both of them are good coaches. Ryan Garcia is stubborn, hard-headed, and he thinks he knows it all. That said, his win over Oscar Duarte yesterday was an impressive test for him. So, I'm your host, Blaine Henry, and today, obviously, we're crying about Ryan Garcia's performance because, let's be real, it wasn't a good one. He did win the fight. He was on top of the scorecards, and, that's all fine and dandy and stuff. But when you're turning your back to your opponent, like amateur stuff, the dude has over 200 amateur fights. What is he doing? He wanted to shoulder roll and show like he was Floyd Mayweather. Wow, okay. You've never done this a day in your life, obviously, and it's very, very apparent. I just don't get it. Garcia, he's more of a YouTube influencer than a real boxer, which is a shame, too, because he has fantastic hand speed. He's not bad with the left hook, and he does some things that are bad. But he also has some good tools that could make him a really good boxer one day. A lot of people are talking about how, Ryan Garcia would never be world champion. I don't buy that. He's really good against certain types of matchups. Nobody at 140 is a good matchup for him except Rolly Romero. So, Ryan, it was a horrible fight, dude. And I can understand, coming off the Tank loss, and how that, kind of bothered you with wanting to get out there and do your thing. You want to get some rounds in, I guess. I don't know. But what you were doing wasn't working. I'm glad you worked out that it wasn't working at the end of the fight and started moving laterally, because I don't know if I could have handled 6 more rounds of you trying to shoulder roll like you were Floyd Mayweather. I mean, he was literally turning his back. And it was weird because the ref was like, Oscar, quit punching him in the back. He's like, where am I supposed to punch? Oscar eventually worked out, the lead hook would do the trick. And once he landed 2 or 3 of those lead hooks, I think he did it twice, where he launched 2 of them and then he launched 3. And Garcia's like, yeah, no, we're going to get knocked out like this, so I can't keep doing this. So, really funny that Duarte took so long to figure out. He's leaning his face right into my lead hook. I should punch there. Yeah. All right, so let's talk about the fight. Ryan Garcia's hand speed. I've got my handy dandy notes off to the side right here. Ryan Garcia's hand speed looked fantastic as usual, and that's his best tool. All right, so Jack Slack talks about it, and we talked about it in fights past. You're either the faster fighter or the slower fighter. It's not really a spectrum on speed necessarily, but Garcia's most of the time always the fast fighter. And when he fought against somebody like Tank, Gervonta Davis, Ryan Garcia didn't know what to do with the body shots. His hand speed didn't matter. Tank played it smart. He didn't go to the body too often, and when he did, he made it count, and he stayed safe. Ryan Garcia couldn't deal with that. Duarte didn't bring any of that to the table whatsoever. Instead, Oscar Duarte was like, I'm going to go in there and bang him out like a Mexican would. Fair play to him. That's how he fights. That's how he's gotten to the point where he's at. He's a good fighter. It was a deserving fight. He deserved that fight. He wasn't out of his depth. But Garcia did this. He was doing some weird stuff, and he did some good stuff. So I don't want to like poo-poo on him the whole time, because Derrick James did a good job of getting him to keep that right hand up. For the most part, he did keep the right hand up, especially when he was trying to shoulder roll. Oh, look at me. Look. Oh, turning his whole back. Like, okay, yeah. That's improvement for Ryan Garcia. So, yeah, he might not be completely coachable, but he does pick up things, and he is trying to learn and become a better fighter. But that's probably only because Tank knocked him out. Ryan, you got to get better. You're a young man. You got to listen to these people that want your best interests. You don't think Derrick James wants you to succeed the best he can? He gets paid more if you're like a unified champion. Think about that. The more money you make, the more money he makes. So he's trying to do what's in your best interest, because it's the same thing that's in his best interest. And I know you speak money, so yeah, you got to listen. So he did this thing, and it was like, Duarte, why aren't you picking up on this? So he'd frame off with his lead hand and try and fire in the right. And, that's great because Garcia's right hand is lightning fast. Woo, it's lightning fast. But that leaves you open for a, let's see, so if he's with that, then he's Garcia's orthodox, so is Duarte. That means his right hand will be able to come over the top. Big right hook. And Garcia was framing off with his lead hand, trying to push off, keep Duarte there. And Duarte didn't work out that I could throw the right hook over this extended arm because, it's not, his hand's not at home. So every move you do, it's going to leave you open for something else. There's no perfect position. With the shoulder roll, it leaves you open. You got to have the best reflexes to get to the next safe position for whatever's coming at you as it's coming at you. Leading and framing with your hand, it works. He landed a couple of them. You don't want to do it all the time, but like if you got an opponent that's shelling up kind of on his back foot, yeah, go ahead and do that by all means. But if you got a guy like Oscar Duarte and you're framing off him to keep him off of you, you're just standing still for him to land on you. And that's exactly what Oscar Duarte wanted. And it was apparent from early on. So first, Duarte started going to the body, and he abandoned that completely afterwards. I was like, oh, he's going to go to the body and tire Ryan out with all this extra weight. Because this is at 140. It's not 135 like Garcia used to fight at. So 143, it was like a catch weight or something stupid. Anyway, so, Duarte, he's pressuring Garcia to the ropes. And I really like that coming from Duarte because Garcia's not used to having people walk him down like that. Tank did it, and it worked to success because Tank kept the high guard, and he was smart when he fought. But Duarte's not as good of a boxer as Gervonta Davis. And to expect him to be like Gervonta Davis would be absurd. Oscar Duarte's never going to be that guy. Gervonta's one of the best fighters. Plain and simple. He hadn't beat nobody good, but he's one of the best fighters. But yeah, so Oscar Duarte kept pushing Ryan Garcia to the ropes. I liked seeing that. I was like, yes, push him to the ropes, push him in the corner. And as soon as Garcia got to where he couldn't move, Duarte would unload. So I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, well, what if Ryan comes forward? What's going to happen there? Is he going to be able to still get this offense off? And it turns out, no. If Ryan Garcia wasn't staying still, Oscar Duarte didn't know what to do. And we saw it later in the fight. So Garcia decided to do the whole shoulder roll thing, and you could tell Derrick James was like, what's going on here? Especially like when they interviewed him in the corner afterwards. He's like, what are we doing, bro? But, Garcia, he's working out some things, trying to be a better boxer. I get it. Didn't work. He did it for way too long. I think 3 or 4 rounds he was trying to shoulder roll, and I was just like, oh, this is ugly. Ugly. It's terrible. So Duarte, he's landing against the ropes. Garcia's trying to shoulder roll. And then off the roll, Garcia, he did find like a nice rear uppercut. So he's, like I said, an orthodox fighter. You lean this way, which loads up your uppercut, and you boom, come up top like that. And Garcia landed a nice uppercut there in round 6. Duarte landed those left hooks in round 6, and Garcia started framing with that left hand. All this happened in round 6. So Garcia, it's funny, round 6 was the round that was like, okay, we've got to stop. We've got to set for a second and figure something else out. So there, Garcia, round 7, he starts circling instead of shoulder rolling. So he's going around in circles in the ring, getting all the boo birds out, as one of the commentators said. And Oscar Duarte didn't know what to do. He just, like, I'm following you, but I can't punch while I'm following you. He doesn't know how to punch and move at the same time. And when Garcia would pause for a second, Duarte would lunge in, and Garcia, whoop! Ryan Garcia's right out the corner, and Duarte's throwing hooks into the ropes, almost falling over the ropes. I'm like, oh my gosh. He's really going to let Ryan Garcia win this fight over this, because Duarte looked like he was going to get in there and do what he needed to do to get the win. I was like, are you serious right now? Ryan Garcia is about to get back into this fight because Duarte does not know what to do when an opponent doesn't stand in front of him? Wow. So round 7, he starts circling. Ryan Garcia did a good job staying out of the corner, which, great. You're getting battered there, bro. You stopped shoulder rolling. You got hit with those left hooks. You stopped framing, leaving that left hand out. And, yeah, it started working for you. So round 8 comes around. I noticed that round, like, Garcia hadn't thrown many left hooks, and that's his best punch. That and that straight right. Those are his two best punches. He hadn't thrown that many of them. But that starts coming out in round 8 because Garcia's tired. He's falling back on old habits. This is a good old habit to have. And he kind of lands that left. I'm like, oh. Ooh. Okay. Like the Shaq meme. Ooh. Like that. Yeah. I was like, this is going to be interesting. Ryan Garcia's figured it out. Round 8. Could be losing. He wasn't on the scorecards. If you looked at it, he wasn't losing. I was like, he could be losing. He might think he's behind. So, he needs to get something done. And he does. Left hook. Stumbles Duarte. Ryan Garcia swarms on him. And eventually Duarte, Oscar Duarte, takes the knee because it's just too much. Garcia's all over him. He needs a breather. And that's when the ref called off. Not without a little bit of controversy. So the referee called the fight off after Oscar Duarte, he was on a knee. Crowd's going crazy finally. They're like, yay, Ryan stopped going in circles. And he finally caught him with something. And Duarte's like, I'm staying down. I'm tired. Referee 6, 7, 8. Normally at 8 is when a fighter gets up like, hey, I'm good. Duarte's like, I'm going to wait. 9. All right, Oscar, let's get up. He gets up at 9.5. 10. And the ref's like, nope, fight over. Oscar, obviously he protests because he could have still fought. But that was the right call by the ref. I don't want it to seem like the ref did a bad job. He did not. Although he did like fuss at Oscar for punching the back when it was actually Ryan Garcia turning the back. Like that should have been a warning for Ryan too. Stop turning your back. But yeah. So good win for Ryan Garcia. He bounced back. New weight class. 140's a tough division right now. It might be the best in boxing now. You got Regis Prograis versus Devin Haney, which I think is this week. We're going to be talking about that. Those two guys are really good. You got Subriel Matias. We talked about him last week. You got Teofimo Lopez. There are some boogeymen at 140 for Ryan Garcia. Who's he called out? Rolly Romero, because he's the most vulnerable champion they got. He was gifted a decision or a finish, really, because he was I forget who he beat, but yeah. Yeah, so he calls out Rolly Romero, which I get it. You know, Rolly's a personality too. And this goes back to kind of what we were talking about, why HBO and Showtime died. It's not about the promoters promoting anymore. These fighters have to promote themselves. And Rolly, as dumb as a rock as he is, he can promote. He talks trash and people love it. So him versus Ryan will be a good build-up. I see them making that fight next because that's a money fight and that's what Rolly wants. Ryan Garcia wants a belt, and he'll get one against Rolly Romero. I think he wins that fight. I don't think Rolly's that good of a fighter. I don't hold him in that high regard, honestly. He's kind of a banger. He did give Tank a bit of a hard time, but eventually Tank got it done. So, yeah, good fight. Not really a good fight, but it was good to see Garcia tested once again. So he's been tested against, like, Luke Campbell already. Luke Campbell wasn't that great, but yeah, it's that lead left to the body I made a video about a while back that you should absolutely check out. The Tank fight, obviously, that didn't go his way, but we need to get past this I'm undefeated as a boxer thing and let them just box. So yeah, Ryan Garcia's future at 140, probably not that great. I don't see him going back up or going up again because I think that's what Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford. 147, yeah. Ooh, no, he has nowhere to go. He's in the 3 toughest divisions. You got 135 with Tank, Loma, and who else is down there? You got Kambosos, who they've been booked to fight apparently, or they're getting ready to book Lomachenko versus Kambosos. And you got Shakur down there at 135 looking to go, oh, come on, Ryan, come on to daddy. Then you got 140, you got the guys I mentioned, and then the nightmare of a matchup for him is Subriel Matias, just going to break him down. Teofimo Lopez, Devin Haney, Regis Prograis. And then 147, you got Errol Spence and, Terrence Crawford. Couldn't remember Terrence's name. What? Ugh. So, yeah. Let me know, what did you think about Ryan Garcia's performance? I wasn't surprised by it. I wasn't happy by it, but it was a win. He had to dig deep, and he did, and he got it done. So, more power to him. Hopefully he gets the Rolly fight, and hopefully we get this belt off of Rolly Romero, because good Lord, that's terrible that he's the champ.